I believe across the country that you should have a real estate license to be able to wholesale. And that might be controversial for people, but I think that there
Why
should
is
be a
that?
hurdle. Huh?
Why?
Because I
Because there's
think
no
there
barrier
needs,
to entry right now?
I, why do I think that it should be that they should have to
Licensed.
get a license? I think there needs to be a code of ethics.
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast.
Hey, y'all, welcome to the Legacy Podcast. I am Tim Bratz, and I'm here today with my boy Brent Daniels, who is the friggin' man, a great buddy of mine. Brent and I met a few years ago and, known each other for a while on social media, but got to meet in person it's probably been 3 or 4 years now. And didn't need to, kind of cleared out his plate for the afternoon, took me out to eat, started drinking some whiskeys, went back to his place and just hung out in the backyard talking about life and business and things until like 2 o'clock in the morning, dude. So that was a fun time and something I'll always remember.
My wife loved it. She was like, "Oh, you should do that every day."
I love it, dude. So, all right. So Brent is the go-to wholesale coach in the industry. He's the man. He's out of Phoenix, Arizona, and has taught thousands of people how to build multi-million-dollar businesses in the wholesaling space. His company's TTP, which stands for Talk to People. I want to dive into that. And dude, I want to talk about the skill set of wholesaling and why it's so critical, not just in building a wholesale business, which can be a cash machine, but also it's integral in any other asset class that you want to be involved in, because it's the skill set that everything else is built upon, of finding deals and being able to dispo deals and off market marketing and all those things. And there's a couple of things, obviously, man, you've been growing a lot in business and in life and in wisdom of things that you've learned over the years, and likewise with myself. And I want to get into all that stuff, man. So let's give high level, a little bit about your background, how you got into wholesaling and kind of what you've accomplished up to this point.
Yeah, I'll start with this. I think a lot of people found Rich Dad Poor Dad back in the day. I was given Rich Dad Poor Dad in the year 2000 for a graduation gift. So that tells you how old I am. But I read it, and one of two things happen when you read it. You either are like, "Oh my gosh, real estate is my life," or you're like, "Give this book away. I'm not going to do anything with this," right? And so I went down that path, and I thought you read the book, you buy real estate, you're out of the rat race, baby, right? That was it. That's step 1, 2, and 3. But I read the book. I bought a bunch of real estate and then foreclosed on a bunch of real estate and lost everything, and was about to throw in the towel. But then I reread it years after I really, just went through all of the dumb, stupid tax that I had to pay during that time as just an egomaniac 20-something-year-old. And in chapter 5, it talks about Robert put a apartment complex under contract. And he raised $100,000 for the earnest deposit, and it was like a $1.2 million deal, but he knew it was worth $2 million. And he went to go raise the rest of the money, but the guy that he was raising the money, he raised the $100,000 from, said, "Hey, listen, I'll just give you $50,000, and you just replace me on the contract, or I'll replace you on the contract, and I'll just give you $50,000, and you just go away, and I'll buy this deal." And he was like, "Cool." And I was like, "What is that?" Like, wait a second. He got paid, and he goes, "I made $50,000 in 3 days and never bought the property." And I was like, "Wait, what is that? I don't understand what that is. Like, how do you make $50,000 in 3 days?" And so you pull on the thread, and I started talking to a lot of fix and flippers in town, and was selling them deals as a real estate agent, and discovered that none of them closed on these deals. It was all these off-market deals in popular areas. Nobody closed on them. They had somebody else buy them, and down at the bottom had this little line item on the settlement statement that said assignment fee. And it was like $40,000, $32,000, $20,000. And I was like, "What is this?" And then I realized what transactional funding is, where essentially what it boils down to, Tim, is there's more money than there are deals. And so you can get 100% financing for any good deals from hard money lenders, and it's called transactional funding. So that instantly made me a cash buyer. I had this limiting belief that if I didn't have the money in an account, I can't go in a purchase agreement as a buyer, as a cash buyer, because I'm not a cash buyer. And then I talked to a hard money lender, Chris Iman, and he's like, yeah, I'll give you 100% for any deals that you find that are really good deals. And I was like, what? And then I understood what wholesaling was. And so being in this 20 years, I really think that there's three main skills that you have to develop as a real estate entrepreneur, and you could add to them or subtract to them or agree or disagree, Tim. But number one is find deals. Number two is raise funds. And number three is property management. And I think they go in that order. And if you get really, 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 really good at that, you can become really wealthy in real estate. What do you think?
I agree 100%, dude. I hit on the three pillars, and I call it finding deals, finding money, and then refining operations, right? Is my three. But it's exactly that. Regardless of what your business is, if it's transactional, making sure you got the operations. If you're holding, you got to have property management dialed in, man, because a lot of people complain about what's happened in the market over the past few years with interest rates and insurance costs and labor costs and material costs and all these things. It's like, dude, what's evaporated more wealth than anything else? Is shitty operations. It's bad property management, bad asset management, bad boots on the ground partners, bad contractor management. It's those things. If those things were dialed in more, you wouldn't have lost a bunch of. And dude, I'm somebody whose net worth got reduced by multiple 8 figures because of bad property management that didn't really get exposed until a lot of the expenses started tightening up. And so it's like, guess what? I'm way better than what I was 3-4 years ago when we sat down and had some drinks. But it was very painful and it sucked. And although we thought we had a lot of things dialed in, now it's like, now we're bulletproof because we've turned around some really, really struggling deals and gotten way smarter, way stronger in order to do that. But dude, you got to develop those 3 skill sets. I agree 100%.
Well,
man.
You didn't know, Tim. I mean, you're a trailblazer. You're going to take arrows. You know what I mean? Like, It's not like your dad is like holding your hand going, hey, Tim, you got to watch out for this and you got to build this and you got to hire this type of personality for this. And you got to make sure you're doing these type of deals and this kind of structure. You're doing this on, hey, listen, and you could have your coaches and mentors and people that are around and masterminds and all that. They're not in your business all day. They're just not. So as an entrepreneur, you're going to, and especially if you're blazing your own trail, like your parents didn't come from, some big business background where they took the arrows for you. You're going to everybody takes those, and we learn from it. And I honestly think, it's probably the better way. Now, I would love it if my parents were like, hey, listen, this is the path. We've got this laid out. You go and take your own creative ideas and your own personality and enthusiasm and grow it or do whatever, or expand it or change it or whatever. But, these are the principles that you have to, rely on and make sure that they are, always there. We don't have that, but we learn those things.
I don't think you build the confidence that way either.
Right.
I think it's cool, but I think there's something about going to the gym and getting your ass kicked and feeling the pain and feeling the sores and going through that process in business also, in that, dude, I earned this, right? I created this, and that gives you a level of confidence to show up better and pursue and want to learn more without not knowing that you don't have this safety net, this cushion. It makes you sharper.
Yeah. I like, Hermosi, I think, was saying that hard work is the goal. Don't worry about the finances. Hard work is the goal because it builds the skills, and the skills aren't something that can just be taken away. And so, in our business, really building those skills of finding deals, raising funds, and property management are really critical. And I'll just be honest, Tim, I stay in the finding deals spot. And I educate and I teach on finding deals spot. I don't do a lot of raising funds and or teaching on that or property management. I don't own like a big portfolio, and we've talked about this. And it's just, I'm kind of staying in what's my superpower of finding deals, and then I'll start expanding into some other things. But one of the things takes me a long time to learn.
When I had you on stage at my summit, my legacy summit in Scottsdale, one of the things that you had mentioned was you were doing some private lending, and you were like, dude, I love hard money lending. I love just being the bank. And I said, why don't you do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And because it can be infinitely scalable. And you deploy it, you underwrite the deal one time, and now you move on to the next deal. You don't have to go and see that deal through for 30, 60, 90, or 6 months or whatever. And you said, talk to me in a year. So
Yeah.
how is that transformed?
Well, I mean, the economy has not been kind for raising a lot of excess funds from buddies and people that I know that want to lend. People have really tightened up from that
And the active
standpoint.
operators aren't there, right? There's a lot of
Right.
those that have kind of like scaled back. I mean, we saw a lot of attrition in like our mastermind, for instance, right?
Sure.
People aren't closing deals, so they're
Right.
not making this excess money to then be able
Exactly.
to pay for certain things. And when that happens, everything constrains in the industry. But I will say that the people who stuck around really are the people who are blazing trails and making some big things happen.
Can I ask you about a limiting belief that I have? And I don't know if it's a limiting belief or if it's just my personality. And I feel like you're like a master at this. And so there's got to be something that you have that I don't. But I feel like raising funds from people, being responsible for other people's money makes them my boss. And I hate that.
Yeah, I think there's
You know what I mean? What's going on?
There's definitely an
What's
aspect to
happening?
that.
What's the disclosure? What's the communication? I need to pull out. I need to put more in. How do all of these things, whatever it is, to me, it's like, oh man, because I had raised funds early on. I was bidding at the foreclosure auctions here when everything dipped in Arizona. And it was constantly the sons and the grandsons of the people that I raised funds from were like in my ass all the time. When are we going to buy the next property? What's the next project? What are you going to put into this one? What are you thinking? Would you hire my buddy that does plumbing? Do you want this, that, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
so maybe I just have this like weird, force field built up that goes, you know what? I'm going to just find deals, sell deals, get cash, lend money of my own, and I'm not going to raise any funds. I'm not going to get leverage because leverage means that I have a boss, and I don't want that, and that's what's good for me. But it also stifles growth like crazy.
Yeah, I think I agree 100%, man. And I think there's a balance. Like, dude, there's some deals that I own 15% of because I give
Right.
up a big chunk, or I'm a minority partner because I just co-sign on the loan. On average, I own about 30 to 35% of any given deal because I give my investors about 50% of the equity, and then my team gets about 15% of the equity. So 15, like 20, let's call it.
Yeah.
So that's my average across 3,000 doors that I currently own today. I've scaled back my portfolio a little bit. And so I think it's more about expectation, but there are some deals that I own 100% of also, right? And I
Right.
like those because I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to like send investor updates.
Is that your goal, Tim? Or are you
Yeah,
just going to
so
go,
here's the
I'm going to
thing.
go
I think the
big
goal
and-
is and should be to, learn, you grow using other people's money, and then you all of a sudden have enough money of your own. You just start buying and funding your own deals as your own LP and paying yourself the 8%, 10% preferred return and 50% equity. And so I own that. And then my team, we carve up the other 50% on the operations side of the deal. And I still get a piece of that too. So
Yeah.
if you can do that, absolutely. Because I know that my team has the operations dialed in. I know that I have control over that deal, but I still don't have to be full-time on it. So I do think that should be everybody's goal long-term, because you got to put the money somewhere. It might as well be in, the deal that and the deal that you like. And so I will say that we've done a pretty good job, I think, of setting expectations with our investors. I don't even know, probably 600 active investors in my deals right now. And there's probably less than 5 or 6, like 1% of them, that are asking me questions outside of the quarterly updates, right? Everybody else gets the quarterly updates, they get the quarterly distributions, or they don't because it's a new construction project and we're accruing those or whatever it is. And we set pretty good expectations on that front. But guess what? There's some projects that go sideways. We just watched the Super Bowl over the weekend, and dude, even championship teams take some L's. And there's obviously deals that come through, but I've never lost an investor's money. And I think that's really what you got to pride yourself on, because a lot of operators are, hey, they lost money, and to their credit, they don't have to. Everybody's a big boy and a big girl who typically invests in syndications, or you should be at least. And if you're not, you probably shouldn't be investing in syndications. And if you lose your money, you got to realize that that is the risk that you're taking by coming into a syndication. And at the same time, dude, you're a young guy. I'm a young guy. We're going to be doing this for another 40 years just because we like the hustle of being in business and the game of it. And I think it's so short-sighted that somebody would lose $1 million or $2 million or 500 grand of somebody else's money and not find a way to make them whole on the next deal, or whether you write a check or you give them equity in some other deal that they don't have to put money into. There's ways to do the right thing by your investors that then salvages your reputation, dude. Because if you don't have your reputation in this, like, there's not many people operating at a high level in this industry. And if your name gets muddied up, man, it's muddied across the board. So like, you got to have that long-term vision, don't you think?
100%. Well, especially if you're buying and holding, you know what I mean? Especially if you're building it up. But I think the biggest point, Tim, you've never lost money because you understand what a deal is.
Here's the thing. I've lost money. My investors have never lost money.
Got it.
Right? Like there's deals that, guess what, man? They went sideways. But it was early on. I lost money on a deal because of, we didn't go through the due diligence. And 80% physical occupancy doesn't mean 80% economic occupancy. And I didn't cross-reference that. And I thought we'd make a bunch of money in 6 months. It ended up taking a year and a half, and we lost money. But I wrote a check, gave the investor all their money back, and then I gave them equity without having to bring any money to the next deal, and in the next deal. And so, that's part of the lessons learned, though. Like, you got to go through that.
Well, I think it's also, whose money are you taking? Whose money are you raising? If you're raising money where, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million is just a tiny fraction of the overall net worth, that the conversations are different as opposed to somebody that only has 250,000 in their savings and they're like, Tim, make it 2.5 over the next 20 years.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. 100%.
And then maybe that was my experience versus your experience. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I think you got a lot of eyeballs on you, man. Like, if you're going out there raising money, you don't need to raise money from non-accredited investors who can't afford to lose it. Like, I think there's a level of, safety net and cover your ass by only raising money from accredited investors who are raising their hands, signing paperwork that I'm a big boy, I'm a big girl, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to invest in this project. They know how to underwrite it. Obviously their risk is limited to the money that they're putting in, at least in my deals, because they're a limited partner. So they have limited liability and all those things, but their risk is the dollars put in, and they know that those dollars could go, be 2.5x, or they could lose money. But again, I think it goes back to reputation. And are you the type of person that has the fortitude to see a deal through when it gets difficult? And I believe the past 2-3 years, man, there's been a lot of people that were swimming naked, right? The tide goes out and you see that they're not doing the right thing. They never built the muscle in order to go out and fix some of these problems. And I've seen that over and over and over again. A lot of these guys, a lot of coaches even, dude, giving properties back. And here's the thing. It's been a lot of hurdles and a lot of arrows that we've all taken over the past couple of years. But I think there's something to be said about going to the gym every single day and building that muscle up. And there was way too much easy access to money over the early 2020s that a lot of people got into deals that they shouldn't have gotten into.
You better believe it, brother. Well, and I think that's why wholesaling is the first start. I think that, if you can find deals and sell them to other people that are, you're starting in the prelog or chapter 1, if we're given the silly book analogy, and somebody's in the chapter 7 or 8 or 10, go look at what these guys are doing that have been experienced, sell the deals to them, see what their exit strategy is, see what kind of product they're doing, see what kind of profits they're getting. You get to do that all without risking your own funds in the beginning. I didn't know that. I just thought it was either fix and flip or buy and hold. I didn't know that there was this third bucket of exit strategy, which was, replace yourself in an agreement, whether that's a novation or whether that's an assignment, right? I didn't know what that was. And now that I do, and I think most of the real estate world does, I think it's silly to get into this business and just go, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just start with flipping, or I'm going to start with rentals. If you have a desire to be a full-time real estate entrepreneur, unless you have this huge excess income that you can start buying assets and just building a portfolio, go do that. Start there. But if you want to be like full time and you're starting with not much in real estate and you want to go into real estate full time, you better learn how to find really great deals and how to sell those deals to other investors in your town.
I agree, dude. I think it's the core skill set of real estate. And if you don't learn it, you can't get into apartments. You can't get into self-storage. You can't get into multifamily or whatever. You got to have this skill set. It's like going to the gym. I keep on using this, and having a spotter on either side. And then all of a sudden the spotter leaves, dude. You never built the muscle, right? This is something you got to be able to do to structure deals and to find great deals and negotiate. Like I use those skills on a daily basis today from when I, first learned wholesaling 15, 18 years ago.
Were you going like hours and hours, Tim? Were you going crazy amount of hours when you started 15, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
Right?
All of it, man. I was just nonstop. I thought about work all the time, didn't have kids, didn't have a wife. And I just worked. I just looked for deals all the time. And that was a little bit different, right? In 2008, 9, 10, when there were deals everywhere and money nowhere. So that's where the raising money skill and structuring deals and seller financing and some of those skills started coming in, which then went away for about a decade. And I've been using it a lot over the past couple of years again. But it's like, they're all tools in the tool belt, man, that you gotta know how to find these off-market deals and how to structure it properly. So from your standpoint, Brent, there's a lot of people who come in to wholesaling and learn this skill set. They want to leverage that into whatever, buy and holds or fix and flips or those kinds of things. What about the people who have a great skill set of finding deals and flipping these deals and turning it into like a business, right?
Yeah.
There's not really enterprise value in it though, but you can automate it and make it a cash machine. How do you advise folks who want to build the business that way?
Well, listen, I think that it's really interesting. And this is the evolution of my business. I always thought, listen, it's a wholesaling business. It's a cash machine. I'm not building this to sell. And then I see these other companies in town that are spending a lot on building their brand. They're on billboards, they're on TV, they're on radio, they're doing all these things. They're spending upwards to $1 million a month in marketing in my area. And their whole strategy is to build this brand to sell, which is wild. But you have to do a lot. You have to build an actual brand, which is huge. Right. And very expensive. And I always thought, I'm going to just take all the money home. I don't care. I'm going to leave this as a cash machine. But to get to $5, $8, $10, $12 million a year in revenue and keep, let's be honest, 25 to 30% of it at those margins, you got to spend a tremendous amount on marketing, on inbound leads. And that's been different. I've been the outbound guy. I've been the TTP, the cold calling, text messaging, door knocking, going and doing that. But you can only go so far and you can't build brand that way. So there's a little bit of tweak to that, Tim, that I've been going through and kind of, letting it settle into my brain and kind of figure it out. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta be on TV. I gotta be on billboards, probably. I gotta be on radio, some of this old school media and build an actual brand. And so that's where we're going at now.
That's what these private equity firms are buying. Are they buying the brand, or do you think they're buying the systems and the processes and the lead flow that predictably comes in?
I mean, it's all there, but brand. I mean, listen, it's an ugly house. Here's your offer. Sell it to somebody before you even close. I mean, it's not rocket science. You've seen a lot of iBuyers that have been trying to do it on some level, but they take down the properties and sell the properties and do more of a fix and flip model as opposed to a wholesaling model. But the people that spend the most money in my market are all wholesaling. They assign all their deals privately, by the way, Tim. They don't blast it out. They don't put it on a website. They're not on Investor Lift putting these properties out. They sell to the same 20, 50 buyers that are buying everything up, and they don't make as much per deal. You can make more if you put it on Investor Lift. You can make more if you put it out there to more buyers, but they just keep it real private, sell it to the same guys, and it's usually the hard money lenders that they sell it to, which is interesting. And they just put it back into marketing, hire more sales guys. They go out on appointments, lock up deals, sell them, move on. You know what I mean? It's a really interesting business. Really interesting business if you go, but it's every business, right, Tim? I bought these jeans, right? These perfect jeans. That's what they're called, the perfect jeans. It was an ad on Instagram or whatever. And I was like, oh, that looks good. They're stretchy jeans. I've got a big butt and legs. I need some of these, right? So I buy these jeans and I was like, this is great. But the manufacturing's in like Bangladesh. They're mailing it from there. They're doing, all these guys do is market jeans. That's all they do. They build a website and they market jeans. They don't make the jeans. They probably don't even design the jeans. They just sell the jeans. This is like all the businesses. You know what I mean?
Business
is just marketing.
The end consumer and the manufacturer. They got themselves in the middle.
Right. That's it. You just get loud. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing, but just with houses and not these fantastic, very comfortable, buttery jeans.
This episode of the Legacy Podcast is brought to you by the Legacy Boardroom Mastermind. So our goal is to give as much free information away as humanly possible through all of our social media platforms and try to help people with their businesses, help people with their lives. We also have something for people who want more one-on-one attention, which is Legacy Boardroom. Legacy Boardroom is a board of directors for your business. If you are doing up to about $10 million a year in gross revenue, you're making some money, you got some good things happening, but maybe you can't afford a C-suite of executives, of a chief marketing officer, a chief operating officer, a chief investment officer, a chief human resources officer, and you need access to these fractional C-suite executives. That's what this was built for, at a fraction of the price of what you can find anywhere else in the marketplace. So it's my actual team who have built multiple 7 and 8 and 9-figure businesses and real estate portfolios that is available every single day of the week on these daily boardroom calls. So any questions that you have, you can hop on, ask questions about operations to my COO, ask questions about acquisitions to my CMO, ask questions about raising private money to my chief investment officer, or team building to my chief HR officer. So they're available for you 5 days a week. Any questions that you have, any hurdles that you're facing, anything that you need, these guys are available to help you break through any sort of barriers and take your business to the next level so that way you can build a business that is designed to feed your life and your lifestyle. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, check out legacyboardroom.com.
So from a standpoint of active income, right?
Yeah.
You're getting, I'm sure you're getting murdered on taxes, and a lot of active wholesalers get murdered on taxes. But you're a full-time real estate professional. And so a big loophole in the tax code is being able to take your passive losses in owning and holding real estate, like depreciation, and putting it in the same bucket as your active income to offset the two of those things. That's something that we can do as full-time real estate professionals that other people, like a doctor, cannot do. Even if they own rental real estate, they can't offset their doctor income because it's two different industries. So we have this opportunity to do that. Have you and your students ever looked at, passively investing in different deals in order to get the depreciation and taking this chunk of change that you're making on the wholesaling side of things, and then being able to take that, invest passively in another real estate deal, get the depreciation from it to offset your earned income taxes, and doing it that way? Or you're wholesaling apartment buildings and buy and hold type properties and saying, hey, instead of paying me a fee, give me 10% ownership and the depreciation in first year or something like that. Tell me about some of the different creative deal structures you guys have done on that front.
None of it, Tim. I pay taxes. I'm W-2'd for my companies. And by the way, when you do go W-2, the income level of like what you pay in income to all your staff goes up by 25%. I had no idea. I had no idea, Tim. I was 1099 and everybody, I was 1099. And then it was like, okay, we're making too much money. We're making too much money. We got to go W-2. We got to pay health insurance, Social Security, Medicare. I don't know. Whatever I pay for. I don't even know what I pay for. But it's 25% more.
Who is that
and
person?
I'm like, holy cow, what happened to the profitability? And they're like, well, you went W-2. And I was like, what does that mean? Yeah. And it's like, well, if you pay $100,000 for somebody, it's really $125,000. I go, why? He goes, well, for the future or whatever. And I'm like, oh,
tax man.
But I talked to, I had wealth advisors, Tim, and I feel like you have to get to your level for it to make sense, because they told me, this is what they told me. They said, you have to buy 8 times your income in properties every year to not pay taxes. 8 times the
With the
amount.
Trump tax cuts, it's about 4. So
great. But
so
this is the
so if
last
you make
4 years.
let's say you make $1 million a year wholesaling, you need to buy $4 million of property and depreciate that. Although maybe they're taking a look at
accelerated depreciation.
That's accelerated, yes.
Right. So then you have to keep that property for at least how long?
I mean, you just recapture whatever you depreciate. So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't cost segregate and accelerate depreciation on a deal that I was owning for less than, 3 years would be the minimum, but probably 5 years or longer, I would want to hold it.
Right. So it limits your option. It limits the liquidity of that property.
Well, it limits the sale liquidity.
You got to pay
if you
back.
could go and throw a mortgage on it, or if you could go and, take some private money out or sell a piece of the equity on it, you can create some liquidity. But yes, you're absolutely right. It definitely limits your ability to sell it. And it's one more thing hanging over your head if you ever do want to exit that property.
And you don't have to answer this, but I certainly got audited and still going through it. I don't know what the IRS is doing. And I don't know a single person that writes off a lot in property that has not been audited.
I have not. So
okay.
Knock on wood.
Well, there you go.
I hope you don't.
You're the first one.
Dude.
That's incredible.
But yeah, I think there's, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more the transactional
I need your CPA,
stuff is what I've always heard is like, they want you to own the assets, but maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
We got different advisors pointing us in the different directions.
But
I think there's
that's what I've been looking at. And I don't know I look at my life. I've got a nonverbal autistic 11-year-old. No. Oh my God. 11-year-old, 13-year-old. Holy cow. He was born in 2011 is what I mean. I think, I don't know. And so he's a lot. I've got a 7-year-old, 8-year-old next month who's a handful and just like me and just bouncing around doing everything. And I'm coaching flag football. I'm coaching soccer. I've got a PPC agency business that we help people do that. I've got a real estate business and that's exciting. I've got a coaching and training business. I'm excited with that. I've got a license now with Rich Dad to coach the Rich Dad audience right now. So it's like, when I look at everything, it's attention management. I think everything comes down to attention management. And I would love to be like, you know what? I should be smart. I should be analytical. I should figure out beep, boop, bop, boop. I need to buy this amount of real estate. And then I've got to get a property management company and start that and do that. And then, get it to the point where I'm not paying. It's just too much, Tim. That's what it is. It's just not on my attention. If I'm looking at the sphere of where my attention goes, it's not buying real estate for depreciation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely a lot to be said about that because there's people who think owning real estate is passive. It's it's not passive. It's residual. There's two very different things. Just because it creates revenue on a monthly basis does not mean that it's passive. And it's another full-time business. Dude, just like you buy houses from motivated sellers, going through divorce or going through cancer treatments or going through
inherited
stuff, right? Like, or disaster where a storm leveled it and they just want to take the insurance proceeds and walk away, right? Like there's a lot of motivated sellers in the single family space. You know who the motivated sellers are in the multifamily space? It's smart business people who thought owning rental real estate would be passive.
Yeah.
And then they never got the teams, the processes, they didn't give it attention. And all of a sudden they took their eye off the ball in their primary business, started dropping because they were trying to manage this new business that they never built the skill set or the strength in order to go out and develop. They're like, oh shit, I need to dump this thing before I lose my primary business of where I made all my money, So I think you and your awareness around that is there's a lot of wisdom, right? Like you get it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too.
On that point, I do think.
Because I would be that guy.
For sure. I do think there's a play though for you to say, hey, whether it's me or somebody else locally that does buy and hold, saying, hey man, let me write you a check for $100,000 and you give me $200,000 of depreciation on this deal, right? And make me a partner on this thing where you can better allocate your funds toward owning an asset that pays you a fixed return, even if it's small, instead of just writing a check to the government, and all of a sudden you're getting almost free equity in these different deals. But
you're trying to get me audited again, Tim. I know it. You're trying to get me audited. You know, I
I'm
get into
telling
these
you, it's not that.
syndications. The IRS is
That's
like,
not
look at
the
this
case,
guy.
not even a little bit. No, it's good though, man. Well, that sounds great. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in the wholesaling space, dude. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of scrutiny in wholesaling. Like I'm in South Carolina and they made
Yeah.
wholesaling illegal. I'm also
got,
from Ohio originally, and they're like, dude, that's been on for a decade. They've been just breathing down the necks of wholesalers in Ohio. What's going on across the country? Is it legal? Is it not legal? How do you make it legal?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's 20 states that have regulations. I have it here. David Olds, incredible guy. He owns Easy REI Closings. They do a phenomenal job. They're transaction coordinators. And he put together this whole report called The Rising War on Wholesaling. And there's 20 states that have regulations. And by the way, Tim, I agree with every state except for South Carolina on these regulations. I believe across the country that you should have a real estate license to be able to wholesale. And that might be controversial for people, but I think that there
Why
should
is
be
that?
a hurdle. Huh?
Why?
Because I
There's
think
no barrier to entry right now.
Why do I think that it should be that they should have to get a license? I think there needs to be a code of ethics.
I agree.
I think there has to be a code of ethics. And I think there has to be somebody that, so the Department of Real Estate basically just enforces these things, and the realtor boards enforce these things of a code of ethics and what's best for the consumer. Tim, I've got people in my market that will lock up a property at whatever price the seller wants, cash. They will then file a memorandum on that property that will put a memorandum of that purchase agreement on the property. It will then put a cloud on the title. They have no interest in buying the property for that price. They won't even renegotiate the price and beat up the property owner. They literally are just putting properties under contract, filing memorandums. And then the next when the seller needs to go and sign it, they're charging them 10 grand to remove the memorandum.
Wow.
Okay.
Should be criminal, dude. They should take them out back.
It is criminal. And it's just, so there's gotta be some regulations. There's got to be some ethics to it. And I just don't, I wish that there was, in a couple states, there is, you get a wholesaling license, which is a good attempt at that. You don't need to have a full blown real estate license. You just have to register as a wholesaler, which is really interesting. So maybe that's the key. A lot of them, most of these states out of the 20, you just have to disclose. And 10 of the states are, what was it, Matt? 16 of the states you need a license now. And so I think it's good. I think it's good. South Carolina is the only one that is, I think, overreaching when they say that you can't market a property that you don't own, even if you have it under contract, even if you do have a license. I think that that's silly, but it is what it is. So just close on the property and then resell it. I mean, a deal's a deal. They're not going to stop us from getting good deals.
And that's the key. The key is, if you have access to capital and you actually close on it, then there's never a question, right?
That's it. Yeah. And
you just got to double close.
You just got to double close. You got to, or close, and then you can actually start marketing the property like they require in South Carolina. So, I mean, I don't think that most of the states are going to adopt that. I think that they've just got bigger fish to fry right now, especially right now. But you know, if more states you require a license, great. It's not a barrier to entry thing, Tim. It's just a code of ethics thing. And I will tell you this: if you look at Google Trends,
well, I think the barrier of entry is kind of a code of ethics, because there's too many riffraff, right, that would come in because there isn't, and they bring the code of ethics down because they're the ones who wouldn't want to go through that barrier of entry. You know, so
sure,
it's kind of semantics.
Well,
but yeah,
when I hear barrier of entry, I hear people, I'm not good at tests. I don't like school. I don't learn online. You know what I mean? That's the excuse.
I'm thinking about the weasel.
Say, you know? So it's really silly. You can get a real estate license in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, it costs you $500, maybe $1,000 total. It's really, really, and there's so many advantages to doing it. But if you look at the Google Trends, if you just go to Google Trends and type in wholesale real estate, 2020 was the highest. If that was 100, we're now down at like 50 of that. And if you go into like how to wholesale real estate, it was like 100 was 2020, and now it's at like 32. So you see these companies, you know them, I know them, that sell the picks and shovels, the list providers, the skip tracing, the text message marketing, all of those platforms. I mean, they took a 70, 80% hit. Yeah. And you know what I think it was, Tim? It wasn't interest rates. It was interest rates on some level. I think the biggest thing that skyrocketed in 2020, 2021 was mass text message marketing.
That's a great point.
You could just send out mass text. I have buddies that were sending 1 million text messages a day, filtering through, doing massive deals. Now they're not in the business, or they changed their whole business model. But once the carriers caught on and really clamped down, and all of the connectors to those services and platforms, and lawsuits and litigation and all that came out, you can't just sit at home as a whoever, send out text messages, get deals. It just, you can't do it on a high level anymore. So I think that eroded, probably half of the people.
Yeah. I mean, it was low hanging fruit. So it was easy, and everybody was doing it. And then all of a sudden, as soon as there's real work, as soon as you got to start talking to people, right? As soon as you got to start knocking on doors and doing, the actual activities, that cleans things up pretty quickly.
It was awesome for the coaching business and for the software platforms, when you could just send text messages and get deals. Yep. But now you have to build real skills. And that always happens. That's the thing about this, Tim. And you see it all the time. Real estate's always about chasing this new way to find great deals and just doing this and this, but then it always gets shut down. Oh, the hedge funds. Oh yeah, baby, the hedge funds. Yeah. Text messaging. Yeah, let's do that. Voicemail drops. Right? People go bananas. And then it gets clamped down, and then people go away. Because when you type in how to make money fast, and it pops up wholesale real estate, and it's like, send out these things on these platforms and make money, and you can't do that anymore. You have to build real skills. And that's why we're making more in our wholesaling business, our real estate business, than we ever have.
Dude, I love it. Where do you see the market going? I mean, everybody's talking about how there's this dramatic shortage of housing, right? We're 4.5 million housing units short across the country right now. We need another 1 million housing units per year. That's with deaths. That's with, people moving out of the country. That's with people moving into the country and people coming of age looking for housing. And there hasn't been too many builders going out there and building, especially affordable housing type opportunities where people can come in. And so we're going to be 7-8 million housing units short in the next 36 months. How do you see that affecting the real estate industry and wholesaling as a whole?
Was there a 2024 census? Did they do it every 4 years, or is it every? I don't remember it. I know that there was a 2020 census, right?
Yeah, it's at least every 10 years. I don't know if it's how often
2020 census, 11 million vacant single family houses. There's 11 million vacant single family houses, right? Whether they be vacation houses, second houses, just vacant houses, there's 11 million. So I don't think there is a housing shortage. I think that is something that is pushed out there because there's been a lack of new home builds, especially between 2010 and 2020. And then right when it was ramping up, the whole world got shut down, right, in 2020. And so I don't know. I know in our market right now, we've got 3-4 months of inventory. I think that is just a very flat, uninteresting market. You have to put out really good product right now to get it sold. You can't push values right now. So I think it's going to be flat for a bit. I honestly do. I mean, interest rates are what interest rates are, but I think.
Are you seeing affordable houses move? Or are you seeing like more luxury type homes? What's affordable in Phoenix market?
I don't even know what affordable housing is in Phoenix. I mean, apartments, rents, I don't know.
Yeah, condos,
are we
townhomes.
talking like people that can't buy house? Like, what's the lowest price house?
Yeah,
median house is like 450,000.
Yeah, I was going to say, anything up below median. Yeah, so 450, 500,000 in your market. Charleston, South Carolina is similar. Small, much smaller market, but similar price point to that.
Well, we have a tremendous economy here in Arizona. I mean, we're the most pro business. We're the 48th state, so we've got this like chip on our shoulder where it's like, yeah. bring the money in, baby. We'll give
Yeah.
you all the tax cuts you need. You know what I mean? So we got a $60 billion TSMC plant being built. We're the mecca of electric cars being built. Amazon does a bunch of stuff here. So, I mean, we're just very pro business. So the economy is good. I just think that the prices are going to kind of be level for the next bit. I don't see what would cause them to move, at least in my market.
Yeah. From a lot of the folks that I talk to, it's stagnation a little bit in 2025.
Yep.
And then they think there's going to be some pretty substantial inflation of prices and rents in 26, 27 and beyond. Ken McElroy's in your market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was talking a little bit about that. I don't know, late last year.
I think if people make more money, if some stuff can get done from, paying less in taxes, having more money to spend on life type of thing, that'd be nice.
It'll
be
be
nice.
interesting, man. I think that's another piece of it though, is like there tariffs, no taxes, make other countries pay for all this shit that gets, shipped to us and all the other things. I think people don't know how it's going to affect and what the ripple effect is going to be from those things. And so they're a little bit timid on making too many, investments or business decisions right now until they understand how everything's going to kind of shake out. There's been so much stuff just in the first, 30 days that Trump's been in office, and everybody's like, okay, well, how's this going to affect this thing over here and then that thing over there and then all this other stuff? There's still a lot of questioning. And I think there needs to be just kind of like a level standardization that we hit before people really start ramping up and investing in businesses or opportunities again.
Well, if you read The Art of the Deal, and I read that like way back in college, and then I got the Audible of it when Trump was in office, I think it was like 2018 or something. I mean, he's just doing the art of the deal. You go, okay, well, I'll just pull out or I'll do something ridiculous. And then people will meet you wherever you want to meet them, whether it's not usually in the middle. It's usually on whatever side he has. And so that's what, hey, let's get rid of the IRS. It's like, whoa, God, everybody's like, this is amazing. And then there'll be some tax cuts or whatever. And so I think he's just loves shaking everything up. He loves going to the extreme and then settling somewhere where, he feels he wins. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. It's going to be interesting how much he gets fought. It's going to be interesting on what is focused on, what actually is his big agenda items. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I agree, man. So we'll close out with this. And dude, so many great nuggets. I love always having a conversation with you. I got to come out to see you guys
anytime.
Tell me what does the next 12 months look like for you? What are you guys really focused on? It sounds like your PPC business is doing some amazing things. Tell me about that and tell me about kind of where your goal, where your head's set for the next 12 months.
Yeah, we've spent $3 million on figuring out how to do PPC on just really, really good. It's something that you really have to learn because Google's always changing, and it's nothing like anything I've ever experienced because I'm not running it. I have no idea what they're doing, but I'm just spending the money, and we have some great clients around the country that are spending money, and we've learned a tremendous amount on what are people searching for, and that actually turns into deals. And so that's really exciting. So I just want to keep throwing more at that and getting smarter and smarter and building that up. From a real estate standpoint, I'm going to just keep pushing. I'm paying $125,000 a month right now in marketing, Tim. And that to me is like, oh God, my financial thermostat is real low on marketing costs. I'm coming from a business, we were doing 10, 15,000 a month, not, 125,000, but it's working. It's working. And my goal by end of quarter three is to have that to 300,000 a month in spend, and then get it to the point where I'm, in the next 18 months or so, but you said 12. So I'd say probably at the end of the 12 months, somewhere in that 300,000 to 400,000 in marketing spend, and then getting a 3 times ROI on that. The 3 times ROI, I keep a lot of that money. A lot of that money is going to be taxed. Thank you, Tim. I get it. I don't own real estate. I get it.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
So is that you start pouring the fuel on the fire on the marketing spend, as soon as you hit the 3X, you're like, all right, let's increase the spend and see if we can keep on doing that. Is that, and you've been able to do that up to this point, huh?
Yeah. Right now with PPC, and this isn't, last year was 3.8 that we got on PPC right now. And it's just the first, 45 days into 2025, we're at 7.8. That'll probably even out to, 3 to 4. If I'm at 3, I'm happy. If I'm at 4, Tim, you're going to see
you're talking 3X multiple
things.
or 7X multiple on your marketing spend, right?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's amazing. That's incredible return on your investment.
It's not sustainable. If I can get to 3 consistently, I'll just keep pouring money into it. If I get to 4, I'm telling you, Tim, I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to have too much money. I'm going to be running around like a wild man. You know what I mean? I'm going to have a whole fleet.
You got to hide it from yourself,
Cyber trucks.
Hide it from yourself. You got to throw it into some wild stuff.
I got to give it to you.
6 passwords to log into. Dude, I'm telling you, that's what I do. I just hide the money. As soon as it comes in, I know I'm going to spend it on something stupid. So I hide it into different investments. And I'm like, and I hate passwords. I hate calling people. I hate writing stuff down. So anyways, dude, super exciting. So is this a service that you guys do for other people too?
Yeah. Talktopeople.com is our PPC company. Stole some guys from Google. They've been absolutely phenomenal. And it's really coupled with the last 10 years of coaching. So we really teach how to, it's a blend, because you can have all the best leads that you want, Tim, but if you can't convert them, nothing happens and everybody's disappointed. And it's much different. These leads are much different. The process is much different with these leads than any other leads. So you really have to be trained on how to do it. And that's what we do.
Dude, I love that about what you're saying. And not only do you utilize the hunting techniques of outbound marketing, you're utilizing the fishing techniques of inbound marketing. And most importantly, you're teaching the skill set on how to do all of it. So that way, dude, that ROI is many times greater than 3X, because it's a skill set that you're going to carry with you forever. So it's really, really cool what you're doing, man, and the impact that you're making in the community. And so, dude, I appreciate having you here. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And dude, if you're ever out in Charleston, hit me up. I'd love to show you around.
I need to come. I heard it's
my guest
beautiful.
house.
Yeah, I hear it's beautiful.
Get out
I
here.
assume your guest house is like 8,000 square feet, right? You know what I mean? You've got like a giant guest house. I'll just stay there. That'll be perfect.
Dude, anytime you want. Bring the kids, come and hang out, and we'll sit on my back porch having some whiskeys, looking at the ocean, dude. So it'll be awesome. And I'm going to be out in Arizona at some point. I'm going to hit you guys up, and we gotta hang out again. So, dude, appreciate you being here. Thank you for being on the Legacy Podcast. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
We put a lot of love and effort into the YouTube channel, just Brent Daniels on YouTube, and check us out.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, brother.
See ya.
Hey, well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you got a ton of great value out of this episode. We try to give as much free value as possible across all of our social media platforms. So please make sure that you're connected with us. We are at Legacy Wealth on YouTube. We are at Tim Bratz on all other social media platforms, and we're available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The best way that you can support this podcast is by just subscribing to our YouTube channel, by liking the video, by commenting on it, and by sharing it with anyone else who might get some great value out of it. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday on the Legacy Podcast.